Morning, everyone. It is October 18th, 2022. We'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for being here. First order of business to dispense with the reading of the minutes. Does anyone have any corrections to the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
All right. Motion made and seconded. I do have just one slight tweak. Under Advisory Committee, Advisory Board updates, the word dope sick is one word. Hearing no other corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Review and approval of agenda. Is there anything that needs to be added or removed?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Ketchmark.
thank you. Probably under number 6, items for consideration, just a summary of the out-of-state travel to look at the digester processing in Massachusetts. And that maybe be after administration and before committee minutes.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
The, where it would fit between B, administration, and C, committee minutes. If we could slip it in there somewhere to,
And I'm sorry, I missed what you
oh,
wanted to put in.
the review and summary for the digester processing plant that we looked at.
All right.
And I'd make a motion to approve the agenda with that one addition.
I'll second that.
All right. Motion made by Commissioner Ketchmark, seconded by Commissioner Batch. Discussion? None. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes. Consent agenda. Would anyone like anything removed for further discussion?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve today's consent agenda as presented.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Vetch. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Consent agenda is approved. Moving on to our timed items. And Attorney Brian Lutz.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners.
Morning.
Just wanted to take the opportunity to introduce my newest attorney, Hans Larson. Hans started October 3rd. We're very lucky to have him. He came to us with 11 years of experience. He started out working with his stepdad, who was a part-time public defender here for a while, and I have some good stories to share, but maybe not in front of the board, with about his stepdad, Eric. After working with Eric for about 3.5 years, he went to Polk County in western Minnesota and worked there as an assistant county attorney for 3.5 years. And then he moved to Sherburne County, where he was an assistant county attorney for 4 years. And I was able to steal him from Sherburne County, and I appreciate the support of Mr. Kelly in being able to offer him a salary that compensated him roughly at where he was at before he came to us from Sherburne County. He's a very experienced prosecutor, so what I did, I know as a county we've struggled a little bit with finding personnel. I've been very lucky with my attorneys, so the last couple have experience, so I started a felony domestic violence team. So Hans is going to do a misdemeanor, gross misdemeanor caseload, but also have 1/4 felonies of domestic violence related cases, because those are time intensive and kind of labor intensive. So we're trying to improve our prosecution on domestic violence cases. Hans grew up in Stillwater. He went to college at Hamlin, went to undergrad at the U of M and law school at Hamlin. I talked about his work history. Some of my attorneys knew Hans, and I did as well, from his participation in the Rivers of Hope Board, where he's been a board member, very active in that organization for a number of years, which fits in nicely with him participating in the domestic violence team. And I did provide the oath of office and the affirmation to Mr. Kelly in advance. So just wanted to introduce everyone to Hans.
Yeah. Well, very happy to have you here. A lot of experience, and sounds like your heart's in the right place.
Yeah, well, Glad to meet everyone, and I'm glad to be here.
Well, welcome to the Wright County.
Yes.
Do you live in the Wright County or do you live in the wrong county?
I live in Elk River. But
Oh, the wrong county.
Pretty, pretty close.
so,
Pretty close.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Ketchmark?
Thanks, Attorney Lutz, for bringing Hans here today. Did he share with you that you're going to be starting the THC gummy worm task force?
he did. That's news to me. so.
Okay, well, better to hear it here than somewhere else.
Right.
All right.
So when you mean the task force, is he supposed to test each one to make sure that they're not overstrong or that's what you're referring to for his staff?
Duties as assigned
No, okay.
from Attorney Lutz.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
you.
you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Matt Streichler from the Sheriff's Office, a resolution.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. So once again, we've got a resolution in front of you for a grant in the amount of $36,900 for towards zero death enforcement, which includes speed, seatbelts, move over law, DWI, distracted driving, using your phone while driving, that type of thing. Just for some numbers from this last year, that same grant, we had 985 traffic stops through this year's grant. That included 76 citations for speed, 16 DWI arrests, 15 seatbelt violations, which may seem low, but you got to consider compliance in Wright County is over 90%. So, and then 24 citations for use of a wireless device while driving. Those are some of the highlights.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve resolution for the 2023 Minnesota Department of Safety Traffic Enforcement Grant.
I'll second.
Motion made by Commissioner Vetch, seconded by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any discussion? Yes, this certainly helps with our department to, have extra dollars for this enforcement.
Yes. Madam Chair,
Yes.
just out of curiosity, how do you pick a certain time frame and say that this is the week we're going to work on TDCs, this day or?
Yeah, there's certain campaigns throughout the year that are set aside by the state where we focus on maybe DWI or speed enforcement around like 4th of July and other busy travel times. So we try to focus on those calendar dates advised by the state. Then we pick certain areas that maybe have heavier traffic flow. We do try to distribute it throughout the county so that we're not focused on one particular area.
No, I would just particular focus on Monticello.
We like to spread the love if we can. So.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Ketchmark?
And just thanks for putting the time into a few statistics to
Absolutely.
share with us and the public that kind of wonder, where did this go?
Yes.
Besides the areas that we're not always going to reveal where you're going to be at whatever time, but
Correct.
you got a little fruits of the labor to share with us. That's good.
Yeah, and we do post some of those campaigns on social media, so that the word is out there as far as when these dates are coming, so the public is aware that we're out there.
And the state posts also when they're doing their different campaigns, so
Correct.
we're often in sync with them, so.
Yes.
All right,
Ready for a vote?
yeah. Well, it's a roll call, so Commissioner Ketchmark?
Aye.
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 Resolution passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is at 9:30, so let us go forward to the items for consideration, which is the first item, administration, the remaining government center equipment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you know, we had an event on the 28th for local jurisdictions that would be interested in some of our remaining equipment furniture at the Government Center. There is still one group that sounds like they may come and take a few more chairs, but outside of that, we do have some equipment remaining. Would like some discussion today whether that it would be auctioned either at board direction, either via the public surplus site, or we could hold an auction on site as well. So just wanted to bring that up for discussion for today.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Ketchmark.
Thank you. Well, thanks for putting the list together to give us something to work with of what's left. I was there for the organized looting day. There was good turnout. I assume most people came and got what they had signed up for, and there's a fair amount of stuff left, but I'm not familiar with what all the values are of these things. If it's minimal effort and time from staff, if we can do a online auction to see what we get, and if there's poor turnout, then we can always leave the stuff there. We did have a little review on the printers. There was attention drawn to that during the walkthrough, so we had a collaborative effort with Marco and found that there was one out of several that we had a pending maintenance contract on, so that's getting resolved. Administrator Kelly, did you have an update on the response from Marco, if they were going to be able to follow through with the request there?
Met with them last week, spent a follow-up this morning, have not heard back as of now, so.
Okay,
But,
we're hopeful we're going to get $600 back from one of those pending contracts. Do we have a plan for the rest of those that we own there, as far as if they could be repurposed here, or would they be part of an auction? Or I guess there's some data potentially that we need to deal with that's
Yeah,
left on them too.
Yeah, you have to protect the data that's on them.
From my understanding, Madam Chair, that they did have them listed on the auction at one time, or a couple of them, and there was nobody that had any interest in them. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I had heard.
Well, is there a possibility to offer this to some nonprofits as well? There's certainly like Love Inc. and some of these organizations that, may have need of certain things. Down in Buffalo, there's that Wrapped in Love. It's a great place that kids can go essentially and do their shopping for free. And a lot of foster kids, perhaps have been in situations where they've never really even owned a new pair of running shoes and that kind of thing. So I don't know if that's a possibility, what the legalities are with that kind of a thing, but I would think that with nonprofits, we've got churches all over the county that could perhaps use certain things. Is that a possibility? On auction, I'm guessing there won't be a tremendous amount of money gained in some of this stuff, but
Madam Chair.
yeah.
A lot of it comes when you have like this volume of stuff. It comes to what you do from a marketing perspective when it comes to an auction. Typically, we don't put a lot of effort into a marketing because we just have a lot of onesie twosies type items. When you have something of this volume, and if you want to get some interest to it, we'd have to spend a little bit of time and effort into marketing it out there to a larger crowd. There's some stuff here that there might be some interest, not for a lot of money, but it would move if we actually let a larger volume of people know about it.
True.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Ketchmark?
a while ago, I did speak to an auction service that would be interested in doing a walkthrough to see if it's worth having a live auction. If that's something under consideration, I'm sure I could still get one or two or whatever the board would wish, just to find out other options. But there's a lot of parking, it's under a roof regardless of weather. If we wanted to pull something like that off, it would work. But I'd have to have him come through and see what he thinks, because he's in the business of selling stuff.
Well, the other option would be to have one of those online companies come in, they take all the photos, they do all that work, which would be a lot easier for our maintenance people.
Madam Chair, and what the auctioneer said, that he does online and live, and he says it's cheapest to have the live auctions for us rather than the online, but.
Yeah, but I think you get more exposure doing it online also than you would with in person. I see you guys have list. I didn't, where did that list come from?
I would say it
On
would.
the email, and I can forward that to you.
So, Madam Chair, and I think, I would think it would be best for us to look at a company to do the online side for us, just because of the amount of labor that it would take from our perspective to do it, and they would actually, it's in their best interest to drive people to it, so I think we could actually probably move a lot of the stuff, because the goal is more than anything is we want to not have to pay to get rid of it. So if we can move a lot of this stuff, even at a small amount of income, is better than to pay to get rid of it, so.
So, Madam Chair,
Mr. Mark?
what's the process then for getting an auctioneer to, legal-wise, bid-wise, whatever, if we're gonna contract with one? Do we have to do the regular RFP process and?
Madam Chair, because it would be considered professional services, so at this point, just the direction to the administrator should be sufficient then for him to compare costs and services.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it would be professional services. We wouldn't have to put out an official RFP, but it would, I think, be wise for us to get a few quotes of what services could be provided at what cost and what they would need. Most auctioneers would want either via bidder's premium or some percentage of sales usually. So we could get a few quotes on that and see what would be most beneficial for the county.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Dine?
Alan moved from one spot to the other, so I'm just kind of curious to find out his thoughts about that. I'm just thinking that, again, having somebody come in, it'd just be off your plate to deal with it.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. I was getting a lot of looks on the side, so I just wanted to come up and address any questions. But related, I guess, more to the copier printer situation, IT sells all their own equipment, so I don't have anything to do necessarily with that. I know they have been trying to sell some of the smaller desktop printers, and that stuff just doesn't sell very well online. It's doesn't bring a lot of value. Maybe is a better way to say it. As far as if we want to sell through Public Surplus, which is our chosen site that we sell our facilities and most department stuff through, or if we want to bring in an auctioneer, doesn't make a lot of difference to us necessarily. We could just start a process of taking a department at a time. It's just a matter of taking pictures and listing it on the website. The coordination of pickups is probably the most time consuming of getting the winning bidders to come pick their items up on a schedule. But we can assign one of our staff members to do that if that's the direction. If you'd like to bring in an auction service and do a process that way, whether live or online, it doesn't make a lot of difference to us. It'll just be kind of a determination of what are we limiting the sale of, or are we selling literally everything on the walls and on the floor and wherever it is. So we can work through that later on. Nothing decision right now, but whichever direction you want to go with it, it doesn't really make a lot of difference to us necessarily. We can start the process either way.
It seems like the most efficient way to do this and to involve the least staff time is to have an in-person auction. People come in, they get the stuff, they take it away. I mean, arranging some of that coordination does get a little difficult, so.
Yep, Madam
maybe
Chair,
that
the-
might be the most efficient way.
Yeah, Madam Chair, the only concern I would have with that is the prep on the front end, because as you go through the building, there isn't really a lot of space for public to gather to view. So you'd be moving all the items and staging it somewhere to give an auctioneer or a viewing area, I guess, for the auction to take place. So in that regard, it's probably a little more staff intensive. If you had a smaller group to go through for the auction, it would be pretty easy to work through the building. But if we're trying to assemble a bigger group, that may be a challenge.
Madam Chair, I would just say auction masters, I buy stuff from them, and they have specific pickup times. And
Yep.
if you don't show up, you're lost, but they still collect the money. So I think, with that and K-bid and bid to buy, there's a number of different ones out there. I just think that would be just an easier, cleaner way of dealing with it.
Madam Chair, and I think live auctions, we're gonna be stuck with a lot of things that wouldn't get sold, where if it was on a online auction, most everything will get liquidated. I'm amazed sometimes it may only go for a penny, but it does sell.
Yeah, and they'll lump stuff together. Those guys do it. They're professionals.
Yeah, they know what to do.
Madam
So,
Chair,
yeah,
I would
Commissioner Ritter?
I would agree with the online auction because those are really popular now. And if you have a live auction, how many people would like to be there but can't make it that particular day and time and all that, whereas these online auctions are quite interesting because we have sold and bought stuff through that, and
Okay,
yeah, it's quite interesting. We've worked a lot with Elsenpeter auction right right down 25 here. And it's in Wright County, so.
Yeah. So the directive basically from the board is for administration to look into basically some online auction companies to figure that out.
Sounds good.
Madam Chair. Just one more thing on the remaining equipment that we hear a little bit now and then, but the IT stuff that's there that I guess we're relying on or depending on, is there any kind of a timetable? Sooner the better, I would think, to get out of there, because there's some risk of it being there, but also the cost that we're hearing about, utility-wise and other, to keep it at a certain temperature, this stuff. I'm just wondering if, since we're out of there 6 months, how long before we're not going to be dependent on that building for those components? Can we get an update on that?
They can take cool, right?
We're actually in the process of moving it out right now. We're taking the network down tomorrow night to move some of that. We've moved a bunch already. We're continuing to move. Our goal was October 31st. We may miss that slightly by maybe a week or two, but there's been no actual pressing need other than we just want it out of there. But as far as environmental controls, it's not going to get any warmer anytime soon, and IT likes its stuff cold, so I don't think we're air conditioning anything. It's mostly just keeping the humidity down. But as for right now, we should be completely out relatively soon. The one problem that we do have is that our internet connection comes through there. So we will need to keep that internet connection, which we get from the state. There actually is, you do have degradation over distance with fiber, and this building right here is just an infinitesimal distance too far, so we're having to get fiber through a different direction. So we're waiting for the state for that. But we've been working through that, but that's the only thing that will be remaining at the building. At that point, you could do whatever you'd like with it.
Madam Chair. And thanks for that update. I hadn't had that before, and
Yeah, we've been moving it the guys have been working on the weekend for the past several weekends. And like I said, tomorrow night, we're taking the network down so that we can unplug stuff, put it in a van, drive it over here, plug it back in. And so we've been gradually doing that for the past several weeks. Tomorrow's a big move, but we're hoping to have everything completely gone by October 31st-ish.
But this internet connection that's going to remain, let's say we had somebody, because when we put our other caps on, we're trying to peddle the building, but you have somebody that comes forward with a checkbook and says, I want to buy it today and I want the wrecking ball to come tomorrow. We'd have to have that stuff out of there. That internet connection that you're talking about isn't feasible right now to get here. What does that look like to get that routed over here?
I'd have to get an update on that. We've been working with the state to get it. They're looking like possibly right now, I'm not entirely sure. I think it comes from east to west. We're talking about maybe coming from Monty south, but it's just, like I said, it's like anything. You can only send things so long on any sort of medium before it degrades, and we're just outside of the limit of maximum degradation for a fiber line, so we're just having to get it rerouted. We've been working on that for a while. I haven't been given any like hard and fast. We have to have it like tomorrow. So we've been working it continuously, but I can't say that we've been pinging them every day to try to find out when they're doing it, but I know it is actively being worked. I just don't have a date yet. If you want to tell me we're out by Christmas, then I can tell you when we can have it done by.
Well, I think the status of the building, I'd like an update from what we're working through here to make sure if a deal did work out, that is not going to hold anything up, that we can turn it over to someone else and we have our stuff out of there. But so I'm just an update time frame, something would be
I've
good.
got a lot of certifications. None of them are in real estate, but I do think it's hard to move things in Minnesota in the winter. Wrecking balls working in snowstorms and whatnot.
Madam Chair.
Yeah,
I guess, I mean, the hopes is that hopefully within 6 to 12 months that fiber line has changed, because I mean,
I
I
would
think that's the
hope in
biggest piece. I mean, even if we got a purchase
A few
agreement
months.
next week, which isn't likely to happen, but even then it would, with due diligence periods and stuff, we wouldn't transfer a building over for a year anyways. But at the end of the day, that's where the biggest concern is
We've been working on it ever since we knew we were moving out. So it's been, I mean, honestly, for all I know, it could be done tomorrow. I just know that every week or two, I say, what's the status? Oh, well, we've talked this, emails bounce back and forth. So we're actively working it. I can get you a better update. I wasn't prepared to give an update. I haven't asked this week, but we'll see. But I would not expect it to take another year.
Okay, thank you.
And if we know that there's a high pride deadline, I can pass that on to the state and they can elevate it on their side as well. So,
All right, thank
any
you.
other questions? Okay.
Thank you. All right, we have 5 more minutes before recognition ceremony. So we'll move on to the motion to approve the delegation of department fund and levy neutral budget adjustments in Oracle Fusion to the county. Administrator, Finance Director, and Assistant Finance Director. Mr. Kelly, any?
I can start on the discussion
on
with
that?
this. Madam Chair, as you know, we are approximately 20 days from go live with our Phase 1 implementation of ERP. What this is asking for is board approval to make budget transfers which are neutral to the budget. It's basically to execute logistical changes within the budget that need to be made without having to come forward at every board meeting to do that. So I felt it appropriate to assign that to myself, Finance Director, and Assistant Finance Director.
All right.
Madam Chair, I guess I'm just, I get there's a lot of aspects of it, especially when you're coming into transferring it into the new system and needing to manipulate within the lines. I'm kind of okay with it from the transfer piece of it, but the ongoing piece to it is where I'm kind of like, okay, this is a huge change of power from the board to administration. So just if you understand, basically by doing this, you're allowing unutilized funds in any line to be moved anywhere at the discretion of your finance director or your administrator, with no transparency to the board or public.
So 2 clarifications, if I could, Madam Chair. One, our plan was to report these then after they've taken place via consent agenda on a weekly basis. Secondly, we don't know how frequent this need will be as we get into the system. We're hoping it to be not very frequent. We did place an expiration on this at the end of the year in 2023, hoping that we would not need that to be in place that long, but it would give us some ability to operate fluidly in the interim period, so.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Ketchmark?
And Commissioner Vetz, thanks for drawing that attention to it. I don't know that that's the direction that we would like to be going. I'd like to sooner see these kinds of things come to us before they're decided. And then if we want to discuss them at that point, we can, rather than, just so you know, we did this, hope it works out for you. We've talked about these budget adjustments before, I think it was last year, and the consensus was that we would find out, it seemed like sooner than later. But that's my thought.
I think this is different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. The one thing that I think you need to be aware of as we move into this is it will prohibit our ability to make payment. The system will stop departments from entering a purchase requisition or an accounts payable transaction if there is not budget in any particular line. What we're asking for is the ability to make these net zero adjustments so that we can continue to conduct business. If we were to have to get your approval prior to, depending on the timing, it may cause us to have to wait. I'm more concerned when it comes to accounts payable, direct AP items, because as you know, we have the statutory requirement to make payment within 35 days. Depending on the timing of the request, the receipt of the invoice and pushing it through the system, and the timing of board meetings, we may be in a tight spot.
And this isn't something that we're not gonna know about. I mean, we get the warrants, we get all those things, so it's more of just a, well, as he said, to meet the statutory requirements. If we're not meeting, I mean, we're not gonna have a 4th board meeting of the month now, so there might be that time lapse too, so. I
We
don't
do
know.
have we want to be transparent.
Of course.
So we will be reporting any and all adjustments.
Since there's a new board that's gonna be on here, why don't we just approve it for, instead of the end of '23, to the middle of '23? And that way it might eliminate some of the concerns of the current board members and also allow them to accomplish what they need to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean.
I think we could work with that.
And
that
at that
would-
point, you have a new board.
And
come
then
in and
they'll
ask.
learn more about the system and, you know, all the nuances of the new system and that kind of thing, so.
I'm okay with a shorter period of
Yeah.
time and then just renewing it if they need a few more months. I mean, I get the perspective that you don't know, that it might take you a whole year till you get all the different transactions that you would possibly encompass in a 12-month period of time.
Yep.
And figure out where they live within the system, but then making them paid. We can just reevaluate it at July.
July
and then-
1?
Sounds good.
All right,
Yeah.
all right, is
Good
there,
idea.
everyone okay?
I'll
Motion
make
to
a motion to approve that.
approve
I'll second.
delegation to July 1st, 2023. Motion made by Commissioner Glyden, second by Commissioner Wetter. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that motion passes. All right, now we get to move to the fun thing of the day. So we have our years of recognition to Wright County, Minnesota. We have some people here, so.
Yes,
Mr.
thank
Kelly.
you, Madam Chair. This is one I always look forward to every quarter. These are anniversary dates for employees that fall between July 1st and September 30th. Those being recognized today. Nice to see such a large number of people getting recognized once again, especially those, the 25 years. So with that, I'll maybe turn it over to you, or would you like me to read names?
Yeah, well, I guess the commissioners can each take a year and we'll just move down the line, so,
Madam Chair, before we do get started,
yes.
I have to compliment the sheriff's office, not the current sheriff, but the sheriff's office as a whole. That, 25 years, everyone in that group are all from the sheriff's
Yeah,
office, sheriff's
that's true.
department, which
Yep.
is incredible to see that.
So I thought it was appropriate for Commissioner Ketchmark to take the 25-year one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I know the whole cast of characters, of course, for quite a while there, and that's 25 years, and looks like a good turnout by them today. So we'll start out with Andy Fashant, Sheriff's Office, 25 years. Is he here today? All right, I won't tell a story about him when I trained him in then and involved a dog bite.
Train him in the jail.
Next, Chad Engel from the Sheriff's Office, longtime corrections staff, 25 years. Eric Leander, Sergeant at the Sheriff's Office, 25 years. I don't see Eric here. Heath Gillum from the Sheriff's Office, 25 years.
Stay for the picture.
And last but not least, one Sheriff Sean Derringer, Sheriff's Office, 25 years. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you all.
Yeah, it's impressive to have that many,
It is.
25 years.
It is, for sure.
And then we got 20s and 15s,
Yep.
all that.
All right, 20 years. Mark.
20 years. Brandy Kirkpatrick. Is she here? Carmen Christensen. These are both from Health and Human Services. On purpose?
They're working, right?
Joshua Hinton, Sheriff's Office. And Stacy Doyle, Sheriff's Office. These have all been here for 20 years. Congratulations.
I get the
Being
pleasure
here,
of
Josh. Yes.
introducing our 15-year service workers. We have Christina Pearson, Finance Taxpayer Services. We have Jessica Baker, Health and Human Services. We have Kimberly Johnson, Health and Human Services.
She's here.
Corey Paulson, Highway Department. Thomas Kuhn, Sheriff's Office. And Terry Glazer, Sheriff's Office.
All right. Thanks for 15 years.
And I get the pleasure of doing the 10 years of service. First of all is Megan Ward, Health and Human Services. Rebecca Graham, Health and Human Services.
Yeah, Rebecca.
Thank you. Rhonda Hescher, I'm probably really creamed that one, but Health and Human Services. Jordan Bartow, Sheriff's Office. Chad Hausman, Highway Department.
Thanks for all the tenure.
Thank you.
We'll get their certificates and gift to them. All right, 5 years. So we have Mr. Sean Johnson, Administration. Diana Johnson, Finance and Taxpayer Services. Andrea Jennings Dreisen, Health and Human Services. Janet Marquette, Health and Human Services. Jessica Latrill, Health and Human Services. Sarah Grotius, Health and Human Services. Luke Jans, Highway Department. Sarah Bierman, Highway Department. James Dahl, Sheriff's Office. Michael Ryan, Sheriff's Office. And Winston Sweeks, Sheriff's Office. Thanks for 5 years. Appreciate all of our employees, and we'll make sure that we get their certificates. They working and can't always get away, so thank you. All right. Moving on to our, under finance, you had our administration review and summary of that process you went to. Commissioner Ketchmark,
yes.
you had that added?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Well, just wanted to come back and summarize what Commissioner Vetch and and it was his initiative. I thought it was time well spent out in Massachusetts a couple weeks ago to look over what I think is best called a digester. It's a process where you mix cattle manure and household garbage together to make fertilizer for the farm fields. So this came about because a company that's in this business was looking around for a suitable site for this kind of operation, and it looks like they may have found one in Wright County. So Wright County's not interested in getting involved in the business for profit or ownership or anything like that, but where our part's gonna come in is if there's an application for a property that we're the planning and zoning body for, then we're gonna have to review that application, decide if we should allow it, what kind of regulations, restrictions, if any, that goes with that. And we didn't think, or me anyway, that by just looking at a PowerPoint or some handouts or somebody talking to us would do that justice. So we went out and we looked at the processing plant. They said they built that for $7.5 million. It's kind of like a miniature processing building at our compost facility, very similar in nature to how it was constructed in the high ceiling. And the garbage is hauled there, big trucks, semi-tractor trailers every day, and then it's ran through a machine and it's sorted. They separate the packaging from the garbage. Then it goes out in more of a liquid form. They've got hundreds of beer and pop kegs that they drain what's left, the remaining liquid from these, and then that gets mixed in with the garbage. Then that gets hauled to the farm site that's a part of this, the second part. Along with that, there's methane gas that's made from this process that the company sells for energy. It gets to the farm and it's mixed in, they call it a lagoon, and it's either lined with clay or cement. It might have a cover, it might not. But it's piped in with that, and then it's used to fertilize the field of either that farmer, and if there's too much, then they could potentially sell it to another farmer. But we went around and we smelled the area where they had dumped this stuff within the last 3 days, and there wasn't the odor that you may expect. I live next to a field, and for 3 days after they've spread the regular manure, you can smell it. You really couldn't even see it. It was so ground up, the residue was so small. The smell, we were in the farmyard, and if you got real close to the opening, you could smell it. But like anything in a high concentration, it's gonna be like that. So questions that we're gonna have here is, should the plant be on the farm? Does it belong in a city? Because it's more of industry and the commercialized part of it. It involves a long-term lease with a willing farmer, and they're gonna move pipes and pumps and different things. And what's that gonna look like in 20 years? If the farmer loses interest, the company goes out of business, we're gonna have to look at that, similar to the solar kind of an industry in my mind. So that's what we got for information. We talked to neighbors, didn't really get much for negative feedback on the neighbors. That was an important part of it too, because you don't get that from the PowerPoint and any sales pitch that you'd get from a company that's coming to Minnesota. The company's name was Vanguard. We met with their representatives also. So we'll just wait and see now. Next step is if an application comes forward for planning and zoning, and then we'll, at least personally, I know questions that I'm gonna wanna ask involving the neighbors and the landowners and road use and things that you otherwise might not think of if we wouldn't have went out there. So Commissioner Vetch?
Commissioner Catchmark, you did a fantastic job in recapping the entire trip and all the main key points. We're looking forward to see what comes forward in the next year from an application, and we'll take that information and address it with an application as it comes forward. I mean, like you said, the big points of this was that they are looking to potentially lease some land from a potential farmer in our area to be able to create fertilizer for the farmer and opportunity for the farmer to make some money and for the company to make natural gas with those byproducts of garbage and manure, so.
Yeah, thanks for the update.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
I
Commissioner.
guess my question would be, would it work here with the ice potential in the wintertime? Also, how about there's gotta be a lot of water that has to be taken out of that, or is that dumped on the field too?
Madam Chair, so the actual climate is they actually get more precipitation there than and they have the same climate as we have here. So from a cold weather standpoint, that's not an issue. All the garbage comes into the farm in a liquid form. So actually what happens is the fertilizer, the manure piece that goes out to the fields is actually in more of a liquid state than that of traditional manure. So in my observation, it absorbed quicker than that of just straight manure being spread on a field.
Because that's what I was wondering about with it coming out of the lagoon. You're gonna have ice and a lot of water. So that's why I was questioning what happens to that water and, you know, if it gets piped away somewhere yet.
Maybe
and-
warmed.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Vetch, maybe I can help out here if you want, Derek.
Sure, otherwise, I mean, the biggest thing is that the spreading isn't done in the January, February, March by law in Massachusetts, which Minnesota, I don't believe, has those same restrictions, but I'm guessing most farmers would probably use that same methodology just from an absorption standpoint because of the liquid state of it. But I
would
can
agree.
defer to you.
We have to incorporate it in a certain amount of time.
Yes,
So
It's treated like
we're on the
manure.
top.
yes. Madam Chair, Commissioner Wetter, if I could summarize kind of what happens is manure gets injected into the digester with the food liquid waste. I believe it was a 27 to 28 day process as it goes through that system, and then it overflows down, goes into a liquid manure holding area where, this is completely new to me, but I'm not in the dairy industry or a farmer, but apparently they then dry out that liquid manure and take out the solids and then use it as bedding for the dairy cattle. And then the liquid then that's left over then gets over to a, what I would refer to as a slurry store, what I commonly would know it as, but a liquid holding manure pond, which is then used to then inject onto the fields. And what we learned is that liquid at the end of it actually has less odor.
That's
Then
what I was
we had-
curious,
Yes.
because anytime you're gonna put that on, there's a certain amount of smell.
Well, they indicated to us that actually neighbors don't even know when they apply manure anymore. Because once it goes through the digester, after that 28-day process, all the chemicals in it that give off the odor of manure is gone. And neighbors don't even know when they spread. I mean, we were on one field where they had just recently spread, and it was 50 yards, not even, 30 yards away from a house. And
Okay.
neighbors weren't even complaining. Yeah, we knocked on a few doors. No one even knew that they operated really there. No one smelled anything.
Because right now, when they empty the ponds, a lot of time, there's so much smell and a lot of complaints out there. That's why I'm curious. I mean, even to drive by a field, it's, horrible.
Different process.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's, nice when they come up with these new innovations, and certainly something that, as this comes before the planning commission at some point, I mean,
Well, it's
you
just
can
like,
weigh all those,
it's like
issues.
municipalities. They do it, and they use digesters and a number of other factors. You don't know that they have spread it out on a field either.
and then also, are there companies out there that are willing to accept that methane? And because you've got to have the industry, or you got to have the full,
Yeah,
circle of people wanting it, and
Certainly
companies, I should say,
communities
wanting it.
that, burn, for methane essentially. I mean, they're capturing that, so, yeah.
So they condense down the natural gas to the concentration levels that is needed to be able to put into the main lines for natural gas. But in some circumstances, they're not close enough to those main lines for natural gas, in which case they actually they put in electric generators. So they actually then burn off the methane to operate a generator to put electricity back to the grid. So they have alternative options if they can't put the natural gas into the main line, then they go with an electric generating system.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Commissioner Vetch and Commissioner Wetter, the interesting thing about the electrical generation is that's considered baseload energy. It's not like solar where it ebbs and flows, or wind where it ebbs and flows. It's a constant 1 megawatt at all times.
Which I thought was a really interesting point to it, so that they actually get some different rating on it because of that, so.
Nice.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Ketchmark?
just two more points to put in perspective for Minnesota farmers is if you see these tanks that are being drug around the fields in Wright County now, that anhydrous ammonia, this potentially would replace that. What they're gonna have to do is get the local farmers to subscribe to that philosophy, to say that this is better, or at least as good as that chemical and whatever else they have to add besides that. And what a farmer will probably look at is what's the yield difference? What's the benefit? It's all about if you got 80 acres treated with anhydrous and 80 acres treated with this process in the fall right now, how much is in the gravity box? How many bushels for that field to compare? That's gonna be kind of the business decision that's gonna face the farmers, and they've been doing their way for a long time. So are you gonna get them to subscribe to the different way? But that'll be the company's, their sales pitch and the whole thing.
Well, regarding anhydrous ammonia, the other advantage to that the farmers use, that it's hydroscopic, so it holds moisture, which is a little different than the other products. So there's two benefits to anhydrous ammonia.
All right.
Madam Chair, we have a few photos we can share from the trip. So,
He picks up.
why not? Everyone likes to see a dairy farm, Sheriff.
So can you explain to what we're looking at?
So if you see the big bubbles there, that is actually where they're capturing the methane gas.
Okay.
That's where they're capturing the natural gas. So if you look at it up to the top of the red there, maybe about a foot below the top of the red there, is all filled with liquid, which is the mixture of the liquid garbage and the manure, and it's all being mixed in there. And there's actually just kind of mixers that are stirring it around and creating that natural chemical reaction to get that natural gas. The Shipping cargo on the right, that's their electric generator on the right. And now below here is I don't know, what'd you call it, that big flat area? That's their dumping station. That's actually where the liquid garbage is being dumped into, as well as the manure. And basically, it's being augured into those red, I don't know,
Digesters.
digesters, they call them, yep.
Could I ask about how much area this whole setup or, would take up, would you say? I mean, is
I
this
think I
actually,
got it in my
The
notes.
is
operation,
this on the farm?
It is on the
that
farm.
They would have to?
yes, you see the dairy barns right behind it.
Yep, I see them.
The operation they're proposing for Chatham Township would have 2 of these red digesters in it.
Okay.
So it'd be technically double the size there. I would say the entire thing would be under 5 acres.
I believe that's what they thought too. It was 5 acres, just if you were doing the digestion, not doing the garbage part to it.
Good. All right, well,
Well, thank you for those answers,
Yeah.
because as a past dairy operator, I would,
curious.
curious on what's being suggested out there.
You had to send that photo.
We have to share that photo.
You had to share that photo. So this right here is actually
North Point.
wrappers and all into this device. They dump all the garbage into there in that machine. You could be loaves of bread. It could be canned soup, and the machine actually sorts out the metals, the plastics, and literally takes the food piece and gets it liquefied and actually sorts out all the other pieces for residual recycling, because they actually take out as much tin and they recycle the tin from the aluminum to the plastics. I forget the percentage, but I think, what they say, they're at about only 5% of actual waste from the products that come in. Was it something close to that nature?
Probably.
What about glass? Because that used to be the problem here, was glass. They couldn't get the glass out.
I don't think they take glass.
I don't think they take
They
glass
don't
either.
take glass.
Oh, they
No,
will not?
everything they had there was paper or plastic.
Okay,
Nothing was glass.
Well, they're end metal. They were taking canned.
They were taking kegs.
Yeah, well, they were even
kegs
taking,
into
like,
it.
there was canned soups, I think, and
Yeah.
canned foods. So anything other than glass, from what I understood.
oh, so if it's a keg, I'm thinking like wood, and you're talking metal kegs, right?
You know, like canned soup, but they had keg beers.
Oh, okay.
They took pretty much. It could be plastic water bottles. It could be loafed bread in a wrapper. They pretty much took anything other than, if it came in a glass jar. I don't think they.
So they wouldn't take a pickle jar.
All right. Moving on to our next item, our county board workshop minutes. Commissioner Beck?
Oh, hold on one second here. Open up my computer. Went to sleep on me.
Many
I've got 'em
questions on that.
So last week on Tuesday, October 11th, we had the county board workshop. We just did our traditional scheduled meetings as necessary. And then we just kind of canceled the December, not kind of, we did cancel the Tuesday, December 6th county board workshop, as that is the AMC conference, annual conference. We reviewed the assessor contracts for the next assessment, and approved the fee schedule for the 2024-2025 assessor's contract at $15 per parcel, which was a no change. Board meeting schedule was recommended, that, as a consensus of the group, was to move forward with the suggestion of 2 meetings per month and 1 workshop per month, and to begin that at the beginning of next year. The last item was the legislative review, to invite legislators to meet either at 11 a.m. or 1 p.m. on Monday, November 28th, or December 12th. They're going to do the reach out to see what participation is available, and to work with department heads to solicit topics to discuss. With that, Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendation from October 11th.
I'll second it.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Vetch, second by Commissioner Glyden. Discussion.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner
Have
Glyden.
we heard back from anybody at all yet on what date is better?
Don't have a preference at this time. We're waiting for a few more responses yet, so.
Okay,
we'll keep
good.
you updated.
All right. Nothing else? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Board workshop minutes are approved and recommendations. Moving on to our advisory board, advisory committee, advisory board updates. Administrator Kelly, is anything you'd like to share?
Just a reminder, Board, of the District 5 meeting in Meeker County on the 24th, coming up next week. As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, ERP, we're now 20 days from go live, so working on rolling out some training with staff and getting things configured with that. Lastly, had the opportunity to attend the Association of Minnesota Counties Administrators conference at the beginning of October. Some very good sessions there about employee retention and a lot of best practices discussions, which I found very good. Was fortunate to be voted the vice president of the association for 23, so
Wow. Congratulations.
thank you.
Very nice. Commissioner Ketchmark?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I went to a couple Safe Schools meetings, Delano and Howard Lake. We were well attended, good feedback on students kind of coming around to the social skill level that they had before pre-COVID, so that was good news. Went to a couple city council and township meetings and the township officers quarterly meeting that was at Chatham Township. Pretty good turnout there for the point in time it was for harvest work for the farmers. They prioritized and a good share of them came. So that meant a lot to them. And that's all I had, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Glyden?
Met with Wright County Community Action. We had our board meeting last Tuesday night. One of the things that was troubling is that the state has reduced the funding, or I don't know if it's the state or the feds, but reduced the funding for heat help.
Oh, energy assistance?
Yeah, energy assistance. So I'm hoping that the legislators will increase that with some of the additional funds that the state has, surplus funds. So hopefully they'll do that after the first of the year. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of people that are going to have a lot of issues this winter because of the increased cost of natural gas, propane especially, and even electricity has gone up considerably. So.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Vetch?
are a lot of those ones when it's kind of first come, first serve on the money? When the money's gone, the money's gone.
Yep.
To my understanding, which is odd because I know that a lot of the income requirements have shifted upwards kind of to that 200 percentile. So I don't know if that's true on energy assistance.
No, actually it dropped.
It dropped on
Yeah,
that
that was
side?
one of the things they were saying too, is that there was people that qualified last year that will not qualify this year.
Because, okay, because so they've removed it because they did that artificial increase on a lot of different benefits. So certain ones are moved down, other ones haven't. There's a lot of inconsistencies and improprieties on that. And
So it will be challenging for some people this year. So hopefully the state will come around and be able to get things figured out. That's all.
That's it?
Yeah.
All right. I attended Buffalo Safe Schools, and our county attorney, Brian Lutz, gave a little talk on the new drug laws, and particularly the edibles, and how it kind of has changed things because youth can possess. And even though other intoxicants, they have to be 21, but so it's posing kind of a challenge for them.
I thought the edibles were 21 also.
For
you can't buy them, but they can hold them. You couldn't cite a 15-year-old or a 12-year-old that has a bag of them in their hands. You couldn't cite them for the possession of them.
can't sell them.
But they can't buy them.
Right.
You can't buy them, yeah.
So, yeah. So it's gotten murky. It's gotten
Yeah, I'd
murky.
say.
So in the Right Choice program, they had 960 kids go through that program last year, so that's been a great program. And it's the 50th year of Wright Technical Center. So they're, all of a sudden, it's 50 years, they've been doing some great work. The township officers meeting, as you said, it was well-attended and had a good turnout, and so that was enjoy hearing from everyone at that. Mentorship, education, and drug awareness. We are now entering our third year with the Drug-Free Community Grant, so that's, time has gone very fast. Rachel has been offering some alcohol server trainings and reaching out to businesses on that. We have a youth empowerment leadership campaign by two of our members. They've presented teen health issues class for 25 to 30 students at Monticello High School. And working on positive norms campaign, and that's essentially, to let kids know that, no, not everyone's doing it. The majority of kids are not involved in these different activities, so just to keep that going. And reaching out into the schools to get more buy-in from the administration and teachers and that kind of thing, to get in and do some of these really worthy programs. The Wright County Opioid Settlement Advisory Committee also met, and we've got a number of great people in there. And looking at the different funding prioritizations, we had a survey which is also going to be going out to the public, but essentially the overall breakdown is, looking at harm reduction, prevention, treatment and recovery, and criminal justice. So we'll be moving forward with looking at the funding, how to break that down. And that's about it. Commissioner Fetch?
So the group here has covered the township officers. Myself and Commissioner Dahliden have had a lot of labor negotiation meetings in between here. East Regional Juvenile Detention Center, otherwise AKA Lino Lakes, was a meeting last week with that. Utilization there is very high. Their occupancy numbers are way up. So it was in our best interest to have 3 contracted beds there, so we have spots for us when we need them. I guess we also have last week the Manufacturers Month.
Oh, yes, the tour was great.
Yep, the tour at
Oh, yeah.
iTech and Nanotech. It's great to see the different businesses that are here in the county and the things that they're manufacturing, which is great. And I also want to say thank you to all of the case aids and eligibility specialists and the child support as their special day last week on Wednesday, and the great work that they do at the county and being able to partake in their fun. That's all I have.
Yeah, Commissioner Witter.
Okay, I attended the Wetland Appeal Board, and we approved a new wetland bank in Middleville Township. Then the Soil and Water Conservation District Board met afterwards, and many of the contract payments were approved. We had updates on the One Watershed, One plans, and the MOA will soon be done on the Mississippi River St. Cloud One Watershed, One plan. They had environmental education days, I believe, for 5th graders. They had 623 students from the different schools. We had the gravel ordinance task force meeting, and went over interim use permits and by ordinance or the planning commission went through some of the criteria there. Was also on that business tour in St. Michael. And I attended the Safe Schools in St. Michael, and I thought it was interesting that now no phones are allowed in class. They have to be left in their lockers. And I had heard that only one other district in the county is actually allowing the phones. I was wondering if anybody knew which district that was. But anyways, a big item too in St. Michael is the book ban, so. And that's all I have to
All right.
say.
If there's nothing else that needs to come before the board, we are adjourned at 10:05. Thanks, everybody.